Podcast. I'm your host, E-Rock. If you like this podcast, do me a favor real quick and go to whatever podcast app you listen to this on and give us a rating. It really helps get found in the searches and getting in suggested feeds. I want to give a shout out to the sponsors of this episode, Haphesis Airsoft Solutions, Skirmish, and TNT Airsoft. Make sure you guys go check out their content, products, and services. I'll have the links to all of those in the description. Thanks for being here. Let's get into the podcast.
Hang out, do a podcast, and just record what's on our mind, and then people just kind of roll with it. Like, yeah, that was really fun. Because all it is really a hangout session where you talk about whatever you want to talk about, whatever's going on, and maybe even get to know new people.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, man. Yeah, most podcasts are. They'll have like a category or a theme of something, that they talk about, but it's mostly just bullshitting,
Yeah. You are on I don't have a PC, so you are literally on a cell phone that's leaned up on a picture frame at the moment.
That's awesome. Hell yeah.
So,
okay.
If
you have it on vibrate, when if you get a notification, it's gonna fall down.
Oh, I'll make sure
awesome.
that right now. Yeah, it shouldn't be on vibrate, but
I think it's cool you were able to hook up your headset to your phone.
Well, it's an auxiliary jack.
Nice. Okay.
Gotta go old school.
Mm-hmm. So welcome, dude.
Hey, it's awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Let's introduce yourself.
They call me Hazard, or at least they do in the Airsoft community and my team. I'm the captain of the Valkyrie Directive Airsoft team. We're here mainly based out of Long Island, New York.
Okay.
So we've been, the team and the name of the brand itself has been fairly new, fairly fresh. We started this, actually, we were established right after the ball drop, January 1st, 2022.
Oh, shit.
Yep. So that's when the team and the name were established.
Year and a half. Yeah.
Yep. So we haven't been around that long, and heck, I haven't even been a team captain that long. I didn't start this team. I actually only came to Power. What is it? June. So about a year and a month or so I've been captain.
Okay.
So, and it's, there were some incidents prior, but that was the players on my team for the most part. We do have some newbies. We have a good ratio of people. We have about 13 people, solid people that are on the team. It was a very selective process of trying to get to people, and I love all 13 of my teammates, because for the most part I either handpicked them or they were with me ride or die since the team was made.
Okay.
So, yep, and it was a fresh start. The whole basis of this team when we started it was that it was a fresh start with good, solid players that would consistently come to the outings, to the events, and all that jazz, while having, just a good faction of people with you that acted as a family, both on the field and off the field. Because my team isn't just like, hey, we try to keep it professional, but at the same time, we talk every day. We're going on our video games. We go out for dinner. Me and my co-captain, I have a second in command that I work with him. He got me my job.
Okay.
So that's, yep. He definitely has been a very big help in being a team leader and stepping up where I can't. When I said, hey, can you be my co-captain? Whenever I needed something, or whenever we needed an idea or something made, he would always step up to the plate, and I definitely appreciate that. That he's call sign War Dog. I don't know about some of my teammates, but I think I know I followed you personally. Like, I've personally followed you for probably a few years now, and didn't even realize that.
Oh, shit.
Didn't even realize. Yep.
Yeah.
So, because I know you see people that like follow you on your Airsoft page, and you're like, oh, more people in the community, and I didn't even realize that we would be here today doing this.
Right.
So I've me as call sign Hazard, as long as Hazard has been a thing. I have actually followed you probably for 2, 3 years and
Yeah.
didn't even realize.
Oh, that's
So
crazy. Okay.
yeah, but
Now, how did you? Because you
uh,
messaged me yesterday through Instagram. Was it? So I sent a message out on our Discord saying there was a little bit of back and forth of just some shit going on. You know how people just kind of get up fixated on this one thing that comes up, or whatever. And somebody said, yeah, let's quit arguing about it or whatever. And I was like, yeah, let's change the subject. In fact, who's going to be on the podcast next or whatever. And Matty Mo reached out, was like, dude, I'm going to send you a list. It was like within a couple minutes. I'm going to send you a list of like 5 people. And then you messaged me. Is that how you, is that why you messaged me? Okay. Okay.
dude, Trifecta Airsoft is looking for people to have on their podcast. They have a few free slots. Go join the Discord. I'll send you a link and get on that podcast and put your name out there, dude.
Yeah. Dude, shout out Matty Mo, bro.
My team in the past year and a half, have gotten very close with Matty and the Mobros. I think I pretty much talk to Matt every day. Um, and will either send each other memes, or we'll talk about the next event, or we'll catch up if we were missing out on anything. We'll coordinate. And I just love Matt, and I love his entire team and what he stands for in his team, because it's what I, as a player, has always stood for.
Yeah.
And it's very, I love him. I love him to death. And I just, every time me and him have an idea or get together, we go full send and we have a blast. There's never, I don't think I've ever had any negative energy or any kind of bad omen with Matty Mo. And I think that's exactly how it's going to stay. I don't think there's ever going to be a day where I'm like, Matty, you're pissing me off. No, because Matty's never that kind of person.
Okay.
Matty is always the person that's going to love you forever, and I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So shout out to Matty Mo and the Mo Bros off the bat,
Hmm.
because they got me on here. They've always supported me as a player and my team, and I'm always going to try and do the same for them. So
Absolutely. I remember the first time I had him on, and I didn't know anything about him. I had just heard about their team when I reached out to him, and didn't really know hardly anything about him.
mm,
So, like a day before he and I were supposed to be on here, um, I looked at I can't remember how I found his personal like YouTube channel or whatever, but like his family stuff or whatever. And so I was like, what? Oh, these are cool, man. Like he did the same thing I did. So when I started my first YouTube channel, most people don't know this, my very first YouTube channel that I ever started was for my family. It was a combination of my last name, Scalf, and Life, right? Scalf Life. And that came up because one of my daughter's good friend from high school,
okay,
when she came back from boot camp from the Air Force, we had a big party for her, welcome home party kind of thing before she went off to her duty station. And one of her best friends, this dude came in and was like, man, I miss it. We hadn't had a big party here in a while. And so our house is like the party house. We do like the big cookouts. Anytime there's a big birthday party, we'll have 40, 50 people over here. And we had above ground pool. We had stuff for the kids. We had, alcohol everywhere. We played beer pong, whatever, just music and stuff. So this was like the thing. So everybody got used to it. So when he came over, he's like, all right, yeah, I missed this because we hadn't had one for a
yeah,
while. And he's like, this is the Scout Life. And I was like, that's going to be the name of my channel. So I started that just filming stuff with me and the kids and my wife, whatever, and I would put it up there, and just for really my family in Ohio to see, because we live in South Carolina. So my mom and I have two sisters up there as well. And so instead of posting all these short clips or whatever, or sending them through text, I was like, I'm just going to create a channel and put it on there. They can all go there and watch. And that was the first, yeah. And it was a really good learning experience for me because that's when I started editing. And so anyway, I saw Matty Mo had done the same thing with his, and these family events and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this is cool, man. And I think Matty Mo's been on here. I want to say 3 times. Yeah, 3 or 4 times, maybe four, and always had a blast. Always had a blast talking with him. So yeah, a good group of guys.
Adore what he's done for the airsoft community, and I love being around him. I love, hanging out with him after an op, talking to him in the downtime. Fighting alongside him is really fun too. You know, every time that I've seen him on field, and I don't want to say it's been a good number of times. I'm not going to say, I've known Matty for years. We fought a lot. Again, I've been in command and doing networking with teams for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But in the past year, I want to say, because I know we're doing two more events together.
Okay.
Sorry, I just realized we're doing two more events together this year.
Mm-hmm.
But we've already run, me and him, 3 times this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, I ran with the Mobros 3 different times this year. There was an op where Matty's was the commanding officer. He was the CO, and that was at Outbreak 2 up at Albany at the Albany Paintball Experience. So I joined him, and that was a fun time. It was definitely a hard fight. We also he came and helped me out. He wasn't physically there, but a good handful of the Mobros were there. They helped me out, and I was a CO at the same field for an event called Gangs of New York, and
Gotcha.
that event is always a trip. I can get into that
Really?
later if you want.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's one of those more or less role playing ops. It's a 1 day event, but it's not, so
Right.
it's not full Milsim, but it's one of those really fun, like, one of its kind events
Uh
where
huh.
you don't get to see events like those a lot anymore, or at least not a lot in general.
Mm-hmm.
I know those role playing events have kind of been on the rise lately, and I love that.
I think yeah, they are. They really are. I think I saw a post about the like a banner, like a post or something on Instagram or whatever of the Gangs in New York event. Is that um is that based off the movie? Is that kind of like what the LARPing thing is, or the backstory is?
The basis of Gangs of New York was, yeah, it does come from the movie. It definitely comes from the movie.
Yeah.
So the way that the event runner had set up, the event runner, who's another good friend of mine, his name is Chaz White, and he used to write and do all the events for the Albany Paintball Experience in that field. And every year he would run Gangs in New York, and we just did Gangs in New York 3 over there. And what it is it's got the 5 points, which usually it's not five. It's they split up 4 teams, which immediately off the bat you never see in an airsoft game. How many
Right.
airsoft games or events have you thought of or can think of off the top of your head that you had 4 teams, 4 different factions that
Uh-uh.
were not allied whatsoever, that you can say, hey, it's a free for all.
Right.
I remember there was one event that I did. It was my first ever event, and Maddie knows this event very well. We were actually on opposite sides. We had no idea who we were at the time. It was Captivus for Grimnir.
Okay.
And Grimnir throws a good event too. Me and Maddie just got done with Operation Arclight. We did together. We ran side by side. So Mobros and the Valkyrie Directive were actually running together in the same unit and cracking 1-1. It was the
Yeah.
same squad. We
Okay.
had a lot of fun, a lot of footage from it too that came out of it. But Top Captivus had 4 factions, but the way it was, there were 2 main factions they had all the numbers, and 2 subdivision factions
Okay.
who were more like civilians, like a home world. I don't know if he told you anything about the lore of Captivus, but there was IGC that occupied a home world,
Okay.
kind of had like a hostile occupation. They held um, Rabbit or Ian in a prison cell,
I
and
had Rabbit
CFI
on
went.
here. Yeah.
Yep. So you know him.
Okay.
He had been captured in the first event,
Okay.
and CFI had to go undercover through the civilians, who the other civilians were other factions, and they had gone. We had to go undercover and break them out, and it turned into a whole big thing. And I loved it. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved it because IGC was looking for CFI. CFI was more or less um, undercover trying to blend in, but IGC
Uh-huh.
had rules of engagement. They couldn't shoot civilians, but they were looking for CFI, and they couldn't tell the difference between them.
Mm,
And I thought that was, I think, one of the coolest aspects. I've never seen it in a Milsim since,
yeah.
but I loved that rules of engagement blend in with civilian kind of play because
Mm-hmm.
not only did it add a lot, it might be a pain in the butt. I mean, no one really likes rules of engagement, especially when anyone could be a hostile. But
Yep.
I was on CFI and I was having a blast. I mean, I was moving through the woods. I had a recon team with me, and we were kind of just moving through the brush trying to escape. We had convoys rolling past us. It was almost like one of those Call of Duty stealth missions where it's like don't shoot. And by the way, we couldn't be armed. They said in the rule set you are allowed to have a weapon on you per planetary law,
Okay.
but we didn't want to. All CFI universally kind of agree we don't want to attract attention to ourselves. So all we would have would be like sidearms tucked in the back of the waistline.
Oh shit.
And yeah, and we did that for probably the first couple hours.
Civilians.
Yep. And the civilians, the actual like other factions were more kitted out than we were, and we were trying to blend in. It was almost obvious, but in the reverse way. It was hysterical. But that was the only other time I've seen four factions on on an event, and I loved it. I wish I could see for
So
any event runners out there.
yeah.
Please make that more of a factor in your events because I guarantee you the gameplay and the experience that will come out of that for your players will be phenomenal. Grimnir absolutely, for me at least, hit the nail on the head, and I wish it could have lasted more than about 2 hours because after 2 hours that whole thing went away because civilian factions started picking sides and allying, and it
Mm.
became a war zone very quick. It really did because
Yeah.
one of the civilian groups, there were two types of civilian groups, but they were all fighting factions. So you had one arms dealing group
Yeah.
called the Haphesis group, and that's who we ended up allying with, and they were a very aggressive bunch. They were very territorial, really lived up to the arms dealing role play, and then you had the Crypto Kings, which were kind of like the backstabbing hacker splinter cell group,
Mm.
and IGC had no rules of engagement to even engage them unless shot upon first. They were looking for us. So we were kind of just roaming through the woods, not trying to be noticeable. We're being interrogated by IGC. We're being interrogated by these space marines.
Yeah.
We're making up stories as to why we're in the area, in the middle of the woods, lurking around, telling them I'm looking for my wife. The rest of us are bird watching. It was
Oh shit.
just the funniest stuff you could think of. Although I was very convincing because when I said, "Hey, I'm looking for my wife," and I described a random woman, they said, "Yep." They used the safe word, and they're like, "Are you actually like looking for your wife? Is she lost?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. It's
Oh
just what I'm
shit.
saying. I
You're an actor, bro. Okay.
for your butt. You're being interrogated. It's like you can't. I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm a professional in any way, but I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want. I need it to be believable. It's the
Right.
simulation aspect of it. I need whatever I'm saying to be believable. Everyone else is like, "Oh yeah, we're out bird watching." I'm like, "Oh, you would have gotten arrested right there.
Right.
You would have got searched right there." I'm like, "I'm looking for my wife. She ran off somewhere. I mean,
Oh, that's
she's
funny.
it's been trouble at home, and I just want to make sure she's safe. It's not safe out here."
That's awesome. Dude, I
But
heard
yeah, but,
Matty Mo was talking about the Grimnir events,
yeah,
and that's actually what led me to having Rabbit on was because I was so intrigued by uh, the depth of story that he was telling me about some of their events. I was like the arc light or whatever, and I was like, what? There's like a whole. So they write this stuff out. He's like, yeah, they're writing this story,
yep,
and they write it all out and they do all. I was like, holy shit, dude! Like, it just it blew me away because up until then I'd only heard just about a handful, maybe a couple of LARPing events, and just heard about them. Like Balahack, right? Like the zombie thing or something like that, or the Old West.
It's a huge event
Yeah,
that is consistent and goes out of the box with the story or
right.
even the theme,
And
because a
it
lot of
carries
times,
over.
yeah,
I
it's
was blown
cumulative in
away.
the storyline. Yep,
Right.
they really do a great job. I've been to a handful of Grimnir events myself over the past couple years. My first one being Captivus, and that was my first ever Milsim, and that's what kind of gave me the fever, the itch. I don't know if you've
Okay.
ever done any Milsims or anything yourself, and
I've been to two,
um,
but just as press.
gotcha. No,
Uh huh.
they're super fun to play as, and if you're someone that likes to challenge yourself and you're really into the competition sport of like trying to win with it as well, it just kind of helps you fuel that go get a mentality, and you have a one hell of a weekend after that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but to what I was saying, um, I was there for Captivus. It was my first. I went to the following one, which was Brimstone. That was out in Panthera in West Virginia. Um, we took a little break from them. Then we heard that they really started getting more into the Captivus kind of flow, and they were kind of drifting away. What we had found in Brimstone was that there was a lot of forced storyline, a lot of
Hmm.
script that we didn't. A lot of my people that I was running with my team, we didn't like that it was so heavily scripted. That's how it felt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when we found out, like a few months later, that their next events weren't going to be like that, we were like, okay, let's get back in the game. And I've kind of just been in love with them ever since. My guys have been going to Anthropos events. Um, we went to Hammerfall, which was last year. We just did Arclight. So we've been to a good handful. We're gonna hit up Anthropos 3. That's in November, November 4th and 5th. It's gonna be a grand time. I cannot wait. I've been loving their events again, all over again so far, and I feel like they're getting better and better.
Yeah.
Because before it was kind of like, it was almost like a Call of Duty story mode, where it's like, all right, you can't help from this happening. This is kind of what's going to happen, and then the rest is in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, recently, since like Anthropos, Hammerfall, it's been more, even Arclight, especially, I should say that Arclight was a blast. So thank you to the Grimnir guys who have been killing it with
Yeah.
these
Shout out
events.
Grimnir for real, bro.
Um, Arclight was an absolute blast. It's been more like it has definitely been more. I don't want to say it's an outcome based event, because now it feels like whatever you do, whatever whatever battles you win and everything, it feels so good because
Mm.
everything that you worked hard for, you're getting the best out of. Because whatever you win, you win. You win that in the story,
Yeah.
and for everything it's worth. And we love me, the Mo Bros, my team. We love it. Um, it's almost like if you ever played that Battlefield game mode. What is it, Conquest, where you have the
Oh yeah.
whole map set up and you have to
Oh yeah.
fight for each individual territory.
Uh-huh.
That game starts with a very blank slate, and then however it ends is how that game ends. You took this, and this, whatever choices you made to do it, and it's everybody. It is
Yeah.
literally playing a game of Battlefield Conquest in real life, and that's why I fell in love with Airsoft. I grew up as a kid playing Call of Duty, and Army of Two was a fan favorite of
Oh
mine.
shit, yeah, right.
Yep, so that was a fan favorite of mine. That decision making, if you remember the 40th day.
Yes.
Um, so I loved that. And not only did I grow playing the shooting games and all that, but then you learn that airsoft was a competitive thing. I remember growing up, my dad and I, we used to sneak around. We had airsoft guns, and we would just do one-on-ones wherever we were, whether it was around the house.
Okay.
We would go. We would actually go. He worked in Manhattan for a while in a building, and whenever a floor was getting demoed, it looked like it almost looked like, remember that torn up office building in Black Ops 2 when you were trying to get the
Mm-hmm.
hacker lady?
Yep.
It almost looked like that whenever a
Okay.
floor was getting demoed, and we would have a 1v1 up there.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
Oh, that's cool as
So,
hell.
yep, but we would go and try to have 1v1s with our airsoft guns whenever. If we felt like it. And then I remember I was probably about 14, 15. Someone was like, "Hey, you want to go airsofting?" I said, "Where are we going to go airsofting?" And they're like, "Oh, we're going to go to this field." I said, "Wait, there's a place to go and do this specifically?"
All right.
Oh, my whole world was upside down
It's
from that
like
point. I
mind
was,
blown. Oh my god.
and, and then they were like, "You got to respawn." I said, "There's respawns?" Oh, I was in a different dimension at that point.
Yeah.
So once I started developing as a player and getting bigger and bigger into it, the more I got older and the more things I realized were actually a thing in airsoft and experiencing, I'm like, why doesn't everyone do this?
Mm-hmm.
Because, as a kid, I was always told, like, hey, get off the video games, go outside and play. And I'm like,
Yep.
I'm going outside and playing video games with myself. I felt like the man on the top of the mountain when I learned about it. I really hope that this is more recognized as a sport, because it is. That is one thing I don't want to say I've had an argument about, but it's been a discussion, because they're like, "What's your favorite sport?" And I go, "Airsoft." And they're like, "What's that?" And they're like, "The gun." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "How is that a sport?" I said, "Well, let me tell you something." And then you gotta tell them, like, yeah, there's giant explosions and you're running around for 30 hours or 10 hours, and, you have to fight and shoot people, and you gotta ration your food and water, and it's also a camping trip at the same time, and they're looking at you like, yeah, it's so unrecognized, and that's actually something I've been trying to do a lot lately, is tell people, and I can't even help it. I gotta admit, I'm a geek for it. I'm a total geek for it, because whenever I meet someone new, they're like, "Well, what are you into?" And I'm like, "Well, I got really three hobbies. I play video games, um, I collect reptiles, and I play airsoft." And they're like, confused the last part. I'm like, "Well, let me tell you this." And then I get into the whole spiel, and then they're like, "Yo, can I go with you?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, bro.
Yeah,
I got an
right.
arsenal. You could borrow something, and let's go. Let's make it a night."
Let's
And we're
go.
always inviting, yeah, always inviting people out to play, and most people in the community are. It's one of the, it's this is one of those communities where, for the most part, everyone who does it as a sport goes to the events, goes to the Milsims, does it every month.
Mm-hmm.
I've even known people, we used to do it every weekend, because where I'm from in Long Island, we have indoor arenas,
Okay.
and they're very local.
Yeah.
Long Island, if you don't know where that is, it is literally the island that stretches past Manhattan
Mm-hmm.
in New York City. It's mostly all suburban. Um, it is highly populated, because the majority of the people that work in New York City, I mean,
Mm.
anything surrounding New York City
Right.
is usually people that work in the city, but Long Island is literally just this reservoir of New York City people that fled to the suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very dense populated area,
Right.
and there's a lot of beautiful parts to it. There's even some rural parts to it. There's farmland on Long Island
Oh
and all
shit.
that. The more out east you go. So the
Okay.
more out west, if you go west, you go into the city, you go into Manhattan. If you go east, you're gonna end up going through suburb, maybe a couple ghettos, suburbs, and then you start reaching, like, rural area,
Yeah.
farmlands, beaches, really rich areas. We have a couple of lighthouses over here because we're an island.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for the most part, the majority of Long Island is densely populated with suburbs and even more urban areas. There are a couple towns and cities in Long Island that are almost like they look like Queens.
Oh,
They look
okay.
like Queens. They look like Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Um, but so you have everything in one wrapped up into this island that's about, if you went from all the way west to east, like 2.5 hours long of a drive.
Okay.
Um, so with that being said, you have a little bit of everything, and airsoft is one of those things. And you have these indoor arenas, Strike Force Sports, where we go for the most of the time. And Ricochet Tactical is another place where people just come in and out, and it's something you try. There's birthday party events that
Mm,
go on here pretty much every weekend or week.
right.
Um, and the normal airsofters will come in and out and cycle in and out and play and have a good time, or people that are new. This is a very good place for people to be like, oh, I want to try airsoft, and then it becomes a gateway, and you're like, oh, wow. And that's actually how I've gotten a few of my teammates, especially more recently, because I'll go and I'll do recruiting and I see these people that are like going to Strike Force or Ricochet, and they'll be like, hey, you guys did really well out there. Who are you? What are you doing? Like, well, who are you? Well, and I show them the team, and I show them, I make promotional videos. I make these music videos. So it's like, well, what do you guys do? You have a team. Like, are you indoors? I said, let me show you. And I pull up this music video, and there's my team. I have to give it to my team. We are a very awesome bunch of people, but we are also a very sick bunch of players. Again, that's not just me patting myself on the back. I could talk about myself all day, but I could also talk about my team. And they're all, as individuals, great players, and they bring a lot to the table, both with their equipment and their skill. And I'm very happy to be their captain. Um, but they'll see the video, and they're seeing this video, and they're like, what? And they see me on top of a truck with a light machine gun. They see one of my teammates, Gremlin, at night with a microgun, the small
Oh,
minigun,
shit.
with 4 tracer units on him, shooting a rainbow into another building at night.
Oh,
They
man.
see us sprinting full force into cover. They see us launching smoke 50 yards into a battlefield and running into it with the most epic like music in the background just to hype them up. Like, and they see all this stuff and like, where are you doing this? And I'm like, well, do you want to join the team and find out? Like, come try out. And it's not the most um selective process, but we find them.
Yeah.
We find these guys at like Strike Force, these indoor fields, because it's not intense. You see people that like they see this, and I'm like, man, I go on YouTube, I'll see Navrich, I'll see Kicking Mustang, and I'm here like just in this building every other weekend playing airsoft. I want to do more.
Yeah.
And these are the guys that we find, the guys and girls that we end up talking to and finding, and we want to give them that opportunity. And then they become a part of our family. And then the next thing you know, they get what I like to call the Milsim bug. And the Milsim bug bites them, and they get a
Mm-hmm.
fever. And they're like, okay, well, when can I go again? This is great.
They're like, uh. They're
My
fiending.
my my left hand man, who has been one of my best friends since high school. He's the first designated team medic. We call him Magumby, call sign Magumby. He hit me up with that today. He's like, yo, when's the next event we're going to? I need to go back on the field. I'm like, I got bit by the Milsim bug.
That's
Because
funny.
we're not doing another event. We're not doing another event really until September. We have an
Okay.
event going on in Jersey that we're going to at Picasso Lake. A couple of our teammates in Jersey, New Jersey, Gremlin and Vasily, they live out in South Jersey, and Picasso Lake is one of their home fields they go to. And they're like, listen, we're having an event here. Can you guys come? I'm like, it's not on the schedule, but anyone who wants to go ahead. Support our teammates. We're a family. Let's go back them up. And a few of our teammates are going. So we're trying to make an appearance. But we're really not having another big event again until September. So we're trying to take a break for no other reason than I want as many of my teammates to come out and give it their all without complication for the last 3 events of the season: September, October, November.
Okay.
And they're going to be some pretty big events. I'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, those indoor fields are great breeding grounds for good airsoft players, especially because it is fast paced
Uh-huh.
indoor play that it if you're playing there, you don't have to worry about a lot of the things that you new people that would play outside would have to worry about. People like, oh well, does it hurt? And they're like, no, yeah, it hurts a little bit, but it doesn't. When you play outside, doesn't hurt nearly as much as when you're 5 feet in front of the other person. They're shooting 355 FPS, and they go wink and
Uh-huh.
nail you right in the back of the neck. They're already used to that pain. Then it's kind of like a burden has been lifted when they play outside. They don't have to wear face protection.
Yeah.
People just play with goggles. I know I'm one of those people. But when you're inside, man, you for the most part you want to wear face protection,
Oh,
full
for sure.
face.
For sure.
It is a different animal in
Well, let
its
me ask you
entirety.
this. If you were playing a Milsim and it wasn't like, let's say it was fairly kind of small, not like 700 people, but like say 100 people on each team, and you knew that Kicking Mustang was on the other team, would you wear Face Pro? How dare you?
I'm gonna eat that bullet like a man. You want to know why? Because I don't
There
even
you
wear
go.
face pro indoors.
Oh shit! Damn, bro. You don't give a fuck about your teeth.
Not
You
even
wear a
listen.
mouth guard?
There was one event where I was like, all right, I need face protection. I need it. There's no way.
Yeah.
Because when I go to Strike Force or my indoor fields, I usually don't wear face protection. I've gotten used to it. Um, there's been times where I've literally eaten a bullet and spit it back out at them.
Oh
Like,
shit.
good hit.
Oh damn. Okay.
Um, it has definitely happened, and I kind of felt like a badass when it happened because I
Oh
caught it with
sure.
my teeth, and I'm like, was there blood on that? All right, good hit. And they kind of look at you like, I just shot him in the mouth. Is he okay?
Oh
But
my god, for real.
one event where I was like, no, no, I gotta wear face pro. This is gonna suck if I don't.
I
Um,
can't imagine like, like an LMG or something, even at like 100 feet. Some of those LMGs fucking are, they're spitting pretty hard, and
oh,
I can't imagine getting riddled just like across the face, like just no way, bro.
well, I got these.
Yeah.
And we went. Call sign Magumby had a party, a birthday party. He wanted to have all his not airsoft friends come try airsoft with all his
Okay.
airsoft friends, and they said because it was a private event and um, the buyer of the party, I guess, the person whose party it was allowed to make the rules because they were paying for the entire session.
Uh huh.
Um, he could make the rules. Now, when you go to an indoor field, for the most part, it's semi-automatic only.
Yep.
FPS is at a certain limit, and they kind of said you could throw that out the window if you want.
Mm, damn.
So we went all out. I mean, everything: pyro, light machine guns.
Oh shit.
And keep
Indoor.
in mind, we were indoor. And keep in mind that for the first like 2 games, we had we kind of diversified the team, so experienced airsofters with all their gear, and a couple, the hoodie rentals that didn't know what they were doing,
Yeah.
and then later on, we had um, we did what we called operators versus recruits.
Oh shit.
So there was about 5 of us that actually
Yeah.
knew how to play and were experienced, and then you had like 30 some odd people in rental guns and gear and hoodies running at it, and it felt like an indoor Benghazi. We were just kind of all out. Just we were running out of ammo. I'm using 40 mics. We were just having a grand old time. But again, we were in an indoor field. And I remember getting shot with my buddy's M249 saw that he uses outdoors, and he
Woo.
laced up my hand pretty much at point blank. And I remember I had a cut there that just healed, and it would start like opened right. I was
That's awesome.
so, um, oh yeah, man. But we've had
Like what you're talking about. If they start out as, let's say, a young teenager, uh, they don't have their own money. They're not working yet, right? But maybe they'll go a couple times a month to the indoor field, and that's all they know. And so, if you guys go out, if you find some players out there, you're always going to have. I mean, not everyone that starts out in
yes,
indoor, they're not all going to just gravitate towards Speedsoft. There's going to be a lot of them that want to really get out and try, try the outdoor stuff. Yeah. Okay. That's a good spot though.
Strike Force Sports was where I started. It is a home field in my heart. They I love going there on the off chance, and what's even better about them is that they do night sessions for like 16-year-olds and up. So it's more of like, you don't have to go against like the little kids, and you can really go all out, and it's from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. and you go there on a Friday, Saturday night, and you just go balls to the wall.
That's cool.
So that's where we all went and bonded. I remember there were times when I was on my old team, because I've been on about 3 different teams. One was a strictly indoor team. I was a teenager. We got all our friends together, and just we went on a team. We called it Old Hickory Airsoft. And I remember me and my buddy, an old friend of mine, we co-led the team. So me and him had equal power, and we ran the team, and we went to Strike Force and Ricochet, and that was it. And then we disbanded because no one was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was kind of different schedules. And then ran alone for a few years, just did my own thing until I went. I don't know if you've ever heard of the team. They were pretty popular for a while, especially right before and during COVID. I joined Deadline Force.
Okay. No, I haven't heard of them.
So Deadline Force was an airsoft team that was pretty popular for a while, at least over by us, that had multiple different sectors. They were actually a fairly national team, and what happened was
Okay.
the owner owned the brand Deadline Force, and he would recruit people and be like, hey, can you run this sector? Can you have a team here and a team here? And I was on the Long Island team, right? Long Island, 5 boroughs. Um, I was recruited by a good friend of mine named Izzy. And I said, bro, I'm looking to get back in. I want to get on a team again. And he's like, dude, I got you. And he put me on, and I met most of the players that I run with today on that team. That's the team that we had broken away from and formed the Valkyrie Directive with.
Okay.
And they had like a team in Florida, a team upstate New York, Long Island, Vermont, New Jersey, and there were players from all over.
Yeah.
Um, and I think actually my chapter, the Long Island chapter, got the most like fame and recognition because we started going to Grimnir events. We started going to Albany. We were all over social media. We were trying to really get our name out there, and it was working. Um, and like I said, we were a very big unit and up and running for a little while. I want to say again up until about 2021, and then when the Valkyries formed and all the people that actually came out and played consistently left and made their own team. No one's really heard a Deadline since,
Mm.
or at least I haven't. And a lot of people in a lot
I
of
haven't heard of
sectors
it.
kind of disbanded. Yep,
And I haven't
they
seen like
kind of
anything listed on like YouTube or Instagram or anything because I follow a lot of airsofters on there.
a little while ago, again, probably 2 years ago or so, once we left, because we had about 12 people that were really active and into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of said, hey, we want to do our own events, we want to do our own things, and we want to have a consistent player base of like team members, because we had in our chapter alone probably about 40, 50 some odd people, and only 12 people were really coming out
Right.
and playing. So we're like, when we went, we're like, we're going to play with the people that we want, that, have become family, because we were always playing with each other every month, every weekend. We would go to Strike Force and Ricochet every weekend, and we would play and really give it our all.
Yeah.
Take footage and pictures, and we'd go out to eat afterwards and hang out, and it was honestly an awesome thing. And it
Sure.
still is an awesome thing. The Valkyries, the original Valkyrie Directive members have split. Um, and some people went off and formed their own team, and that was due to the old leadership of the Valkyrie Directive.
Yeah.
But all of us are still friends. The old captain is not in the picture. And now we have a sister team that runs alongside the Valkyrie Directive a lot of the time, and we love hanging out with them because, again, it's still that same family.
Right.
We're just now like under two separate banners, and we run together. So I got to give a shout out to Call Sign Noodles and Old Dog Airsoft for always being at the Valkyrie Directive side, always being at my side, my team side, because we always love running with them, and we always have a good kick-ass time. And last time we ran with them was that event that I was like, no, I have to wear Face Pro for this one. I can't not. That was we were testing the waters. We were helping out our friends over at the Wargs of Ragnarok. They told us we could use a hand at this event. I said, once they told us what the event was, we're like, oh, we're sold. We're here. We're going. We went to an event called Syndicate 3 over in Pennsylvania at the Crescent Sanatorium.
Okay.
Now, if you don't know what that place is, or the event runners, so shout out to Big House Milsim, because Big House Milsim throws an amazing event.
Really?
Have you ever heard of them?
No, not that specifically. I heard of I saw a post about that event, and that was it.
It might have been mine or another team local to us. Oh, if you look at
Yeah,
Dark Horse 6 Cutthroat, he used
I
to be a
had Cutthroat
Mobro.
on here.
Dark Horse 6
Had him on
Cutthroat.
last year.
Yep, I love Cuddy. Cuddy's awesome people. Yep, Cuddy is good people. But they went. We were with them. We saw them. There was on my page. If you looked on the Call Sign Hazard account, there are posts and videos and whatnot of Crescent Sanatorium. Crescent Sanatorium is an abandoned psych ward / prison that was decommissioned in the early 21st century, or the early 20th century, I think. I want to say that place is probably around 100 years old, some crazy number like that. But it's an abandoned psych ward prison from like the 20s. It was in that era. That's when it was really operational. And it's supposed to be haunted. The reason that place is up is because it's a tourist attraction. People go there to do like
what are those videos called?
Like
yeah, the ghost hunters.
Like ghost hunters. Kind of like like those experiences where they try to like go through the haunted prison, see a piece of history. And Big House Milsom, for like 3 different times out of the year, will go there and be like, hey, we want to have an airsoft event over here, and they get it done. They'll do 3-4 different events at this prison, this old abandoned prison. And it's not just like one building. It's a complex of buildings fenced in with barbed wire. It's an entire facility with like 3-story brick buildings, and you do have to be careful. There's some buildings you can't go in, some things you can't shoot, right? But I remember looking at the FPS limit and looking at the AO and seeing all the narrow hallways and the dark rooms, and I'm going, yeah, that's a little too fast and hard to be getting hit in the face indoors, even for my standards. I'm like, nope, 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 nope. I said, I care about my teeth. At least somewhat.
2 of my sons and their good friend, they were the other 3 when we all started this YouTube channel. and they were the ones that played Airsoft, and I just ran the channel. So they would go to the Milsims, and they wouldn't
Mm,
wear, well, their buddy JP wouldn't wear face protection all the time, but he would wear a mouth guard.
like a
Yeah,
football mouthpiece.
like a football mouth
Yep.
guard. Mm-hmm. Oh
Yep.
yeah. So he's like, yeah, I can't. My parents spent too much money on fixing my teeth when I was growing up. I better not get one shot out.
Face protection, to be honest with you, and
Oh,
it
it gets
it
hot, man.
it gets super hot, and especially if you don't have defog. I mean, I've found my cutaways to making sure I don't fog up. But back in the early days, before I did, you fogged up so much less when you didn't have like that mesh face or the
Uh huh.
balaclava or even the hat. I would just run nothing but goggle glasses and just go out there. If you look at pictures of me on my Instagram at Captivus, you just see me on top of a Connex box with a bright red F1 Firearms AR-15 and just you know safety
Those are
goggle
awesome.
glasses on.
Yeah, we actually got one of those in
Yep.
the mystery box. Okay,
Xfog was not around when I started doing Milsims
it
and
wasn't
everything like that, and
popular.
it definitely
Well, it definitely
wasn't.
wasn't as popular as it is now. I think when these guys started, they didn't have it, and we started our channel in April of 2019, and they started playing. I think they went to their first Milsim probably like 3 months, within 3 months after we started our channel or so, and they didn't have it. And I think the next year they started getting more gear and all that for Milsims, and they had. I remember my son bought an X-Fog and was hooking it up through his helmet, kind of thing, or whatever. And because, yeah, oh yeah, it was, yeah, game changer for sure.
Uh, I actually have my own way of doing it because in order to run the Xfog, and again, I'm not knocking the idea. I would, if I had the money to spend on it, I'd probably get one myself. But I found my cut throughs and ways to not have fog. We
Mm-hmm.
what I do almost 90 90% of the time is one of two things. I'll go to Walmart and I'll get a bottle of Rain-X
Mm-hmm.
anti-fog for the car windshield, and I'll put it on a rag and I'll wipe the inside of my goggles, and I'll be good for the entire event, if not just at least one day if it's a really humid day.
And that doesn't like there's not fumes or whatever. It doesn't like burn your eyes and all. That's good. That's good. That's
No,
smart.
either that, or I've one thing that worked even better than the Rain-X did was again, they weren't. I usually get the Rain-X
Yep.
like the liquid that you would pour, but they make defog wipes. Armor All makes defog wipes. Armor All brand defog wipes on your goggles. Never had that. I think that was the best result I've ever gotten out of a
Really?
defog wipe for anything ever. Was just straight Armor All defog from a gas station or an AutoZone or
Like a
a
pack?
Walmart. Even I know you can actually get them.
Yeah, just a little.
No, not packets. You get your money's
Oh,
worth. No,
like a big
for your
old
money's worth.
plastic
You get
container.
about
Like
five
a
for like
you pull them out.
yeah, like
Uh huh.
a Lysol, like one of those cylindrical like bins, like for maybe this big, like a small one, like half one. Like
Right.
you get a Lysol, it's like this big, it's tall. Maybe cut that in half, and you have all those defog wipes for I don't
Oh,
know,
that's
last you
wild.
however long. But those I think were the best quality defog wipes ever because they weren't. It wasn't like a one time like little
Mm-hmm.
packet or rated for it. No, those were for your car windshield, and I've
Oh,
never
that's
had a
cool.
better defog wipe. I've had the individuals. I've had the little
Uh huh.
spray, like the glasses defog spray. It's just something about the stuff they make for your car windshields that um really does the job just that much better. And I honestly like it better than Xfog. And it's not anything to do with performance, but I've seen people have issues like, oh, my Xfog turned off or the Xfog battery died. But if you have any sort of lenses, which if you're airsofting, you do. You take the defog wipe or the liquid bottle and you put it on your dead rag, and then right before the
Yeah.
game starts, and you wipe your
Oh,
lenses,
that's
and
wild.
you're good to go. The only time that, yeah, that's what I've done now for years, and it is my
Really, pro
best
tip, man,
solution.
for real. Anyone listening,
Um,
if you want to try this out, I want to hear some feedback because that's a good tip. Besides not calling your hits in airsoft, this is the number two thing that's most irritating. Most irritating in airsoft is the fogging up of the lenses.
dehydration and just sweat, man. I don't know about you, but I'm a sweat machine as just
Yeah.
as a regular human being, let alone airsofting with in full kit. And I must hate myself because I don't run the rigs, the lightweight rigs or anything like that. I'm always full plate carrier kit, plates in it, just
Oh
running.
shit.
Before I say I don't run real steel plates, I actually make my own plates homemade.
Oh,
I
okay.
used to use the foam insert ones,
Mm-hmm.
but I found out recently because of my job, and my co-captain War Dog, because he came up with the idea, and I was like, oh, I gotta do this. We would take corrugated plastic. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but like sheets of corrugated plastic that we would get as scrap from work, and we would cut them the dimensions of a plate, put
Yeah.
three of them together, tape them together, and put it in. And it does three things very well. One, um, it's plastic. So if you sweat, it doesn't go all the way through your vest, or if it's raining, it doesn't go through your vest
Uh-huh.
and doesn't get moist or anything. Two, it's
Right.
very solid and rigid. So it's not going to bend, warp, or anything like that. And you do hear a little something. It helps you hear something when you get shot by a BB as well, I
Okay.
gotta say. Um, and three, it makes your vest just feel better when it's on you. It Because you have the vests that form, or sometimes they feel a little awkward. I put these corrugated plastic plates in the vest, and man, it feels a lot better. They're not
Huh.
heavy, but they keep the shape of the vest. It
Right.
just feels amazing.
Well, yeah, and they're light and yeah, that's cool. Okay. Yeah, because I've heard of people
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of people running real plates when they play.
Couple of those crackheads. Yep. I give them all the credit in the world because I'm here trying to have fun, and you people are trying to.
They're
It's
getting a
so.
workout, okay? They want to get a
Oh,
workout.
oh yeah, and you know
It's
what?
either
God
that
bless them.
or it's they're fairly new and maybe this is one of their first like bigger Milsims and they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to wear all this gear and I want to show it off, right?" And then they're the ones 2 hours in are like, "Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I got to leave. I can't
I
breathe."
have made, Lord, I have made the wrong decision.
This is the end of part 1 of this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode where we wrap it up. Thanks for being here. I'll see you next time.